during the day, and especially when those opinions can be from like a 14-year-old sometimes.
Yeah, no, I love that social media gives everybody an opinion, but I hate it. I hate it equally.
Yeah, it makes me reconsider democracy sometimes, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm like, let's just bring in a benevolent dictator, as long as it's me.
Yeah. And look, I'd vote for you. I don't really see many other options out there, to be honest. So
Yeah, let's not even get into that. I think that's
yeah, that's for another podcast.
Yeah, it's one of the more depressing aspects of things at the moment. But yeah, like I'm doing pretty good, but you seem to be doing quite well for yourself there. I saw on your Instagram, you're working with Virgin Music now and you guys signed Emtee.
We signed Emtee. Well, we actually signed Emtee's label.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so Emtee himself is spread across a bunch of stuff, but we've got some really cool releases coming out with Emtee. He's got a young producer called Young Serrano. I'm not sure if you know him. He's sort of been around for a little while, but it's sort of shifting gears now. And he's an incredible producer, and Emtee's sort of been helping him through everything and putting together his first album, which is coming out. It's really exciting. It's got like Emtee's on there, Blackie's on there, Natty C's on there. So they've really pulled out all the stops. But Serrano's also really great in the fact that he doesn't just want to work with big names for the sake of that, which is really why I like that crew. He's got a whole bunch of new guys coming up through the mix. So if for hip hop and trap fans or whatever, is check out that release when it comes out. It's gonna introduce you to some new artists, and you're gonna see some of the big names doing what they do best as well.
Okay, sick.
Yeah.
So how did the whole Virgin Music thing come about? Because I know you've obviously been working in music pretty much your whole life and had like a label, and so yeah, how did that come about?
Yeah, so it's been obviously my whole musical journey. Everything happened by mistake from day one. But
I mean, I could tell because like none of it seems to be a coherent plan.
No, nothing's really been planned. And again, it was the same sort of thing. Yeah, I used to consult to a lot of labels back in the day, especially I guess when like Hilltop was at its peak. I was dealing with so many live acts and live, booking so many shows, and it is just like sort of helping. Yeah. Sorry. So Hilltop Live was a company that did Oppikoppi and a whole bunch of other shows. So I was, I guess. And remember, I earned Good Luck Bar at the time as well. So I just had like an idea of what new acts were coming out all across the board. So I was consulting a lot in that sense. And COVID hit. And obviously at the time, I only worked in the live scene. I was doing the event stuff, and we owned a little restaurant turned nightclub very quickly in Melville, and everything shut down. Yeah, you won't believe Romeo's was meant to be a really classy restaurant. I know it's hard to tell that was the plan.
Like, it did look pretty classy when you went in. It just didn't stay that way.
No, yeah. And I got a call from Chris Galakis, owner of Electromode. And obviously, legend, rest in peace. He passed away in December, unfortunately. Massive hero of mine. And he was like, don't you want to come chat to me, man? Electromode, we've just sold Electromode to In Grooves. We're part of In Grooves. We're part of that whole, like, this international family. And I'm looking for somebody to come in, and I'm looking for another A&R. And I was like, I'm not going to lie. Back in the day, I was always like, oh, these label guys, super sleazy. I don't see myself fitting into that world.
Yeah, A&R does not have a good reputation, especially.
No, not at all, Morgan Ross actually put me forward to him. So I gave Morgan a call. She worked with him for years, and I knew. And he's always been the label guy that I looked up to, that musicians looked up to. He didn't have the sort of sleaziness that the other guys had. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna hear this out. And I came to meet him and Nicole, his like right-hand woman, and we had an interview. And I really liked what he said, and I loved the approach he had to like being big on like musicians owning their masters and, just basically going, there's ways to be a distributor and support financially, and there's enough money for everyone to be made that you don't have to, these artists don't have to sign their masters away and have to deal with, we've all heard the dramas between artists and labels.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
kind of really liked what I heard, because the recording industry is an amazing industry. Like, it's obviously where I always wanted to end up, but there was always this sort of like idea attached to it. And I was like, I don't know if I can be that person. And so I came on originally also just consulting from the beginning, and it wasn't very long. It was like 2, 3, 4 months maybe. And I was full on, and I was like, this is where I need to be, actually, and realized I'm better at this than I am at the live stuff. Or I guess my heart was more into this. I've always, me, I've always I've loved being part of the music development side. Is like booking a festival like Oppikoppi. It is always more exciting, finding new acts, placing new acts in places where people would see it. I used to be so strategic about booking festivals. There'd be like a band like Academy would come out, and I'd like, everybody needs to see this act. And I'd work that budget, which was a shoestring budget. People don't believe me when I tell you, but it was a shoestring budget. And
Well,
I'd work
for the costs involved.
Yes, yeah, exactly, And it's like trying to wing this out that, I could make sure that I can't give them a main slot, but I can put them in the right stage at the right time, that people are going to be crossing the festival grounds to get to another show, and hopefully going to be able to suck in all these people. And sometimes it really worked well. Other times it didn't, but it's always been that's sort of where I wanted to be, and I figured, where's the first place to start? Like I was in the clubs and stuff, but it was finding these artists, recording music with them, getting their music out, So yeah, it appealed to me in a big way. And I got this like thrown into the fire, straight into the fire, is because
But
I
you
came
also
from
had experience with labels as a musician, right?
Yeah. Look, another reason I didn't have great experiences with labels as a musician. And so I was, a little bit maybe better going in, but I very quickly realized that I was in this environment and situation, where we were doing things differently, and it wasn't the same drive that all the other labels seem to have. It was more about. Definitely more of a family situation, which reminded me of the Oppikoppi days. We were very much a family. It was great to have that feeling again. And okay, I obviously did a lot of rock, indie, traditional, Maskandi. It is like hip hop was obviously a big one for Hilltop Live, but I'd never worked in amapiano. and it was a genre I never really thought I was going to work in. And I'll tell you the honest truth, it was probably one of the times my age would be the first time that my age was going to like come into play. And I was sitting, I remember watching Focalistic doing something, just as sort of he was breaking, and thinking, yes, man, I sort of kept up to breast with everything that's happening, but maybe I'll sit this one out. Well, fuck, life had different plans for me.
Hey man, I relate there, because I think one of the last articles I wrote for Bubblegum Club was Kabza De Small's EP or album release, and I was fully just like, this is dope, but I don't know if I can like learn enough about a whole new genre of music to speak authoritatively on it,
No, we were in exactly the same place, and I'd like from the get-go, it's not that I didn't like it. I actually loved it. I loved the culture of it, especially in the early days. It is this like really DIY punk.
Yeah, the Pretoria vibes.
Movement. Yeah. And, even before the Pretoria vibes, if you're looking at like the sort of like, because, most guys don't know that a lot of it, all the first stuff is like East Rand. Like there's so much of it coming from the East Rand. It's look at it like an act like MFR Souls. They were doing amapiano long before like the Pretoria scene was even existed. It is crazy. But that I wasn't, obviously I'd sort of come to know it like once sort of Foka and all of these guys were breaking. So I was obviously not there right for the beginning, but I loved the culture of it. And once I started, I realized if I'm going to be any good at this job, I need to work with what's working and what's cooking, and I need to become a part of this culture. And it's like, I've half my life, I feel like that that uncle at a wedding, that old single fun uncle at a wedding is half the events I'm at, people are like half my age. But it's great. It keeps me young. And I'm actually so grateful all of this happened because I would have been so sad to miss out on like one of the most exciting times in South African music history, you know. And you know, I don't just work in my piano. I sign
Yeah.
artists across the board, but it is a dominant genre in Africa and in the world at the moment. So it became a big thing. So yeah, that's kind of how, long story short, that's sort of how the whole Virgin thing came about, you know. And then Grooves are all owned by Universal Music, and Virgin and In Grooves merged into one company. And so that's sort of where the swing towards Virgin Music came. But it's been a really cool move. We're part of like a big ecosystem. Virgin Music has got a really cool approach to deals, etc. It's also like we haven't gone back into like old school record deals. We're still doing like progressive modern deals. It's just everything is sort of the same deals we're doing. It's just under the Virgin name, and we've got a much bigger network. So yeah, been exciting.
I mean, that obviously helps for international stuff as well, right? Because you now have got like a global network, basically.
Yeah, big time. Because obviously Electromode was a South African distributor, you know, and Electromode was, well, I guess the reason they got bought by In Grooves, and I can give no claim to this. This was Chris's work himself, but there was I remember with I'm a Piano right in the beginning is the majors were ignoring it. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with like Gom. Like Gom was ignored until DJ Tira, put on Destruction Boys and Babes and stuff. But like in Durban, it was popping. Like that stuff was on flash drives, in taxis.
Yeah.
But there was no major distribution happening.
No, exactly. And Chris was always one step ahead of the curve with stuff like that, and he heard something there. And I think those original first stuff that they put up, if you go back to the early Kabza and Maparisa and the Black is Brown stuff that was coming out, the Buster 99, there was a point where I think it was 27 out of the top 30. We always tell people about this, and I've just forgotten the number, but it was 27. Yeah, I'm almost convinced it was 27. We had 27 tracks in the top 30, and that was just before I joined. So I can't actually claim that I had any hand in that. But yeah, so it was, it's like, I got the tail end of working with a small indie distributor and sort of moving into the Virgin realm. And I still feel like so much of the Electromode values and that indie sort of work ethic still very much exists in this office. We just have a big family worldwide that helps, and teams. So we've got, breaking artists in new territories is now something that's very possible for us. Where as an indie South African label, there was no ways you could do that on your own,
Oh yeah, like you just maybe see the SoundCloud streams and like you see like like with Short Straw or whatever, they were like, oh, we've been played in Japan, cool, let's go to Japan. Whereas now you can actually be a bit more strategic about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Tasers was one like that. Also, didn't they get a sync on like Shameless or something? And next thing they were playing gigs all over the world.
Yeah, it's kind of dope that does happen, now. Whereas like back in the day, you would have all these bands who, we would love here, or who like wouldn't even get the recognition here, and we get some recognition overseas, and like you would have to tour to Europe or whatever to make things work. And I just feel like now there's obviously a lot more of an opportunity. But this does bring me to like, I think a pretty important question at this time. How does streaming affect everything for you? Because obviously the royalties and everything are fucking tiny, but it's obviously also a way that, like, in terms of distribution, it's never been this easy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, so per stream you're getting paid pittances, but if and before I started working properly in this industry, I was under the same sort of idea of everybody else, was that like there's no money to be made in streaming, only to find out that artists are making more money. And in a lot of cases, artists are making more money than they would have at the height of whatever physical, because guys have the ability to do it independently. You don't need a label anymore. You don't need to go a label to pay for you to record in the biggest studio there is, or to print like 100,000 copies of your album and send it out all over the country. You don't need that anymore. You can
Especially when that
actually
has to
do
be
it.
recouped, and you don't know that when you're going into it as a band. You're like, "Oh, we're getting 100,000 rand advance," and
Yeah,
meanwhile, that's coming straight
and that's the
out of
last you
your
see.
pockets. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so for me, it was super exciting just discovering this and now like being a part of this. And there's really ways like if you handle, if like a band, like if I look at like when I was a kid and Southern Gypsy Queen was starting out and you couldn't release music, you couldn't really do it without a label if you wanted to do it properly. There was no ways. You needed to record, which was expensive. Most acts couldn't record, and you had to go to a studio. Like the home recording thing wasn't where it is now. And then you had to get CDs printed, you got to out, and then you had to support it on the road. And it is a different game. Now there's kids like recording in their bedrooms, going onto TikTok. They can get it up, like through some DIY distributor. They can get their music out. They can get song break on TikTok. And next thing, this guy's a star. Look at Will Lindy. Will Lindy was studying in Stellenbosch, and a TikTok video went viral, and I signed to like Island Records and touring the world. And like I see he's like got a major slot at Lollapalooza. It's like that never existed in the old days of physical. You didn't just artists couldn't just break on their own, and that's exciting. And there's still a place for physical. It's just people aren't buying CDs anymore. But you got to get clever, with your merch. Vinyl is still a thing. Merch has become bigger than ever. Guys are doing everything from olive oils to coffee to whiskeys to like it's crazy.
I thought you were just talking about fuck off there.
Yeah.
I wonder when they're gonna come out with an olive oil. That's
Yeah. No, I did actually. I wish I could remember which band I saw it that had an olive oil the other day. I was like, oh my God, okay.
But then, so I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, this is dope that like people do, I guess, have an option, to be heard by more people in that. But sometimes it feels a bit like a lottery. And also, I think a lot of musicians have a problem with having to create online content as well to promote their stuff. So, yeah, what are some of the concerns that artists, come to you with regards to that?
So the biggest issue is that the days of artists just being musicians are over. You're a content creator now as well, and that sort of falls into your skill set. And like if you look at like successful artists and what they do is they've got like and it's not as rock and roll as the days like, oh, Jim Morrison vibes works are lying around drinking whiskey in the studio and recording these gems and somebody else is taking care of everything else. Those days don't exist anymore. The musicians are up it now, and they're also clever. This is why they're not getting screwed over. This is the way they used to, is because they've realized they can do so much of this on their own. And technology and, like stuff you can do on cell phones now, just filming and editing and getting content out is you need to create content and I look at like the really pro acts that we work with. It's such a pleasure to watch them. They have like maybe 2 days a week where they write. They'll have another day where they maybe rehearse for whatever's coming on the weekend, and they have a day just for content. And that day they get together and they film the different contents and they plan what's going to be coming out over the next while. And when they're on tour at these gigs, will they be shooting there? What will they be doing there in studio? It's like suddenly that's part of selling your music, and probably still the most powerful part of it. Guys like me and you were never affected by radio as kids. How many acts did you get into listening to?
I didn't listen to radio.
FM or 5FM.
No, like I honestly, yeah, like I got most of my music when I was younger from SL CDs.
Yeah.
that's I didn't really get into the whole radio thing. I know other people had like, Barney Simon and this and that, but that was never my journey.
Yeah, no, even me. And it was just never a way for me to discover new music. But it was for a lot of people back then, I guess I was part of the MTV age where MTV and I discovered a lot of stuff, I suppose, there in South Africa. That is one of the few places you could. But if you look at like now, everybody lives on their phones, especially young kids, like traditional media and PR campaigns. It still works for certain artists, But if you're looking at piano specifically, and looking at like Emtee and them, that crowd, they're not sitting listening to radio or watching TV. Is they do everything they need to discover is on their phone, and it's possible as a musician to do that yourself. So as an indie artist making it these days, I'm making it sound easier than it is, because it's not. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You need good songs, and you need fresh ways of making content that people actually want to engage with and want to watch. So the content becomes part of the creative process. Is like, I need to make content that I can put up on TikTok or make a reel or do whatever that is aligned to the music, to what I'm selling, and I need to make people want to go and stream this song, or want to go and watch this on YouTube. So it's become very much part of the creative process. And I think the musicians that have clicked that it's all linked and intertwined now, those are the guys that are doing well, because there's a lot of good musicians and songwriters out there that are just going nowhere, and they're going to go nowhere because they haven't adopted this. And I'm so glad that I just play music. I play my dad rock for fun now, because I feel that I would not be one of the guys that would have necessarily fitted in making content like this as a musician. It was just,
Well, I guess it's like seeing it as more of a job, and the job's not just, making the music, but like you can also just be a creative and an artist who doesn't do that stuff, and that just focuses on the music, and like you say, play your dad rock and whatever, and do it for the pure love. But then you're probably not going to get the same level of success as someone who is putting out the content, who does have a whole strategy towards that sort of thing. And I think it's the same as it's always been to a degree, because even if you look back in the day, you needed someone who could do PR, and had to do interviews and this and that. And like, you used to have to try and get into magazines and into the newspapers and on the radio and all of that. And that was an aspect of the job that I guess is just being supplanted now by social media. And in some way, I mean, I've got my own hangups with all of it. But at the same time, I guess, like, even with something like Amapiano, like, you just look at all the dance crazes on TikTok, it has helped it spread like worldwide,
No, it really has, from the dance crazes to acoustic singer-songwriters that like have done some obscure stripped down cover of a song, have gone absolutely viral, and now next thing you see, they're writing their own music and they have a career. It's exciting. And look, I'll tell you, like, even so I don't know if you know, but I sing for the Black Hat Bones now, after Quiver's passed, and it's been really cool. And it's our approach was old school, but even we've woken up and gone, oh my, we need to we need to wake up, even though this is not my career. It's like, we need to be better at this, and like, we do gigs, we do content days. It's like 4 old dudes making content. Like, if we waking up to it, it's not that hard, I promise you.
I get you. It is like a bit of a lottery sometimes as to what actually gets picked up by the algorithms. And I think I know I get disheartened sometimes, like just with my comedy and stuff. Like, I posted on TikTok a joke about weed that they just buried. So on Instagram, we got like thousands of views. On TikTok, it's literally on like 35.
No, look, it is, the music industry has always been one of those, or entertainment industry is like,
always been a lottery.
I'm going to throw this wet toilet paper against the wall and hope this one sticks, It is a gamble of an industry. And I don't think doesn't matter which way it goes, it's always going to be a gamble, unfortunately.
Whilst we're on the Amapiano thing, I've actually got a listener question for you from Rousseau. And he says, ask Gareth about what he hopes to see evolve in the South African dance music scene post Amapiano. Like, do you think audiences have a desire for live bands that build on local genres like Amapiano and Kwaito? Or will those genres remain DJ based while live bands primarily do rock and jazz?
So like, from the time I've been working in the genre, is we've seen it come from this like very punk style DIY genre to be like sort of taking over the entire South African industry. And then people kind of getting bored of that, and then sort of soulful piano coming out, like you look at your Amifakus and your Bootles and coming out with these beautiful, melodic, like soulful Amapiano songs. And it's just like you're going, oh, okay, but it's not really what Amapiano was. It's kind of, so elements of piano are moving into other genres. If you look at Afropiano, like the Nigerians market has taken elements of the genre and brought it into Afro beats, and in some cases it's not Amapiano at all. It is Afro beats using a lock drum like strategically. I think obviously, so those were the first progressions. Already I can hear the sound is changing. It's changing so fast. If you look at three-step is definitely the new sound that's moving. It's got the elements of piano, but it's got more elements of Afro tech as well. So you're seeing a lot of the different genres merging, and internationally you're seeing a lot of people using elements of piano, but broadening what it can do, which is great, because I think just the way it was originally done, I don't think it was going to last very long like that, It was great, it was exciting, it was raw, it was unmixed, it was unmastered, it sounded like it was tearing your speakers apart, but it needed to evolve a little bit as well. And as from the live point of view, you're starting to see live elements come into play, but in many ways, it sometimes just softens the sound a little bit, So you can see why a lot of guys
I get
don't
that, yeah.
want to go that route. It can sort of like mellow it out for some guys a little too much. But you are starting to see a little bit of the live element creeping in, and it's something which I don't know if I can predict if it's going to become something more, but I would really love to see it becoming more of a live genre.
Okay, dope.
So fingers crossed.
And then how do you see the live music scene at the moment? Because you've obviously been through a lot of iterations, a lot of booms and busts. And yeah, for myself personally, when I look at a lot of lineups and that's, it's a lot of legacy bands basically still headlining and that. So I'm wondering, how do you see the live music scene these days?
Well, I sort of don't have much time I haven't promoted one of my own events for a long time. And I've sort of been toying with the idea, maybe we should do been talking to my mates, maybe we should do a festival again. Maybe just and I won't lie to you, the main driving force behind that is I just want to book a lineup that doesn't look like every other lineup
Fucking
that's
amen.
out there,
I've been feeling the same way, bro. That's the thing. I don't ever want to organize another music festival ever again.
Because, you and me, we've both been burned, bro.
Yeah, it's a lot. But when I
remember, what is the festival you booked? I remember you booked a festival. Oh, yes. And I still remember messaging you and going, you know what? I just love that it doesn't look like every other festival. Because it's not even about booking the same act. It's in a scene as small as ours. And I said, no, you got to sell tickets. And everyone's like, blah, 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 whatever. I get that obviously you're going to repeat acts here and there. But for me, a major thing is just the way you program a lineup doesn't have to be the same as every other one. You're looking at all these different events. I don't want to name names. I want to name names, but I'm not going to.
You don't have to fucking just look at any fucking poster that's out there.
And it's still, let's just book them from smallest to biggest. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. Jeez, guys, come on. Let's make it fun, Yeah, Oppikoppi was fun. We had the opportunity to do this fun stuff there, Coral gave us a canvas. One year you could do Folk Off on the main stage, and the next year you could do a secret unplugged show of theirs on the top bar, not even put them on the lineup. And it's just using different strengths, using bands entire sort of skill sets, not always just putting the same bands on the same slots. And that's why people don't go to festivals anymore. It's always the same shit.
I mean, that's the thing. You can react however you want to whatever, but I'll never go to Splashy again because I know what the lineup's going to be every year. It's the same as last year. So,
dude, it is, and I get, I get from a promoter's point of view is a lot of promoters do feel that, oh, there's only so many bands that can sell tickets, etc. But I feel like it's a promoter's job to. I feel like the big festivals should be raising new headliners. Yeah, yeah. So Opie gave us the opportunities that we knew we didn't want to rely on the same head, and to some extent we did for a long time rely on many of the same headliners, but we realized you couldn't have them every year. You had to rotate and you had to mix it up and you had to create new headliners. And it came down to a point where, like back then Blaze was still booking Daisies and I was booking Oppikoppi, and him and I it was never this like, oh, Daisies versus Oppikoppi thing. It is always like, whenever we spotted like young, exciting bands, I would message him. I'd say, check these guys out. I think he's amazing. Like, I'm keen to do something big with them this year. How do you feel? Like, let's, and we had a lot of bands come through the ranks like that. Like BCUC was a great example.
Oh yeah, I saw them for the first time. That's OP.
Yeah, and I said to Blaze, this band, we need to give these guys bigger sets than what everyone else is giving them. And he was like, sweet, and jumped on it, Short Straw was another one, funny enough, is that obviously had a hype before Koppi and Daisy's booked them, but it was that those were two festivals where I think Short Straw played every single stage at Oppikoppi besides for the dance stage. Is and Blaze did a lot for them as well. And there's like it's so many different acts that him and I work together with like that. And I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't feel like anybody's doing that anymore. It's just like we're too lazy to build up new headliners. So we're all just going to book the same ones over and over,
Yeah, I think Search is probably like one of the few festivals that like really has an interesting booking philosophy.
Which one is that? Sorry?
Search.
Oh, yes, yeah. I haven't been to Search, but I do follow them online, and it looks, it's a little bit more adventurous, Yeah, and interesting. It's like you get some festivals the world over where they sell out before they announce the bands, and it's not because the people don't care about the music. It's because in a lot of the cases, it's because they trust the bookers that they're going to see something new, see something exciting,
Like that was like one of the things. I mean, also I guess Hank also with Multifaceted does quite a good job these days, and like that's for me was like the whole point of going to a festival like Oppikoppi or like Multifaceted or even the early days of Splashy Fan was that you were going to see stuff you had never heard before, and you could trust that like some of it would actually be quite good because like I mean I knew the bookers and this and that, but even before that you just like knew that hey, something different's going to happen, plus some bands I love, my friends are going to be playing, and like it just was such a unique experience and it was a music discovery tool, and yeah, that definitely doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, look, the Splashy one's a tricky one because it's like to some extent they did resurrect the festival, I guess, and it is so family orientated. It's quite hard to do what you and I are talking about in that space, But I do remember the days there was a blunt stage. Remember that?
And I saw Horse the band, bro, like at Splashy Fan.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not really one. I was at Millipop this year and it was great. It was it felt like I was traveled back in time a little bit. Like the type of DJs and electro and stuff sort of took me back to like the Grit days and all of that,
Yeah,
like
sure.
a little bit of a flashback, which was cool, But there's guys doing, like, if you look at the Until crew with Bacardi Holiday Club, and those guys have created such a cool vibe with the festival that I'm not one of those like the experience over the music guys, because I'm like, I hate Africa Burn between me and you, and people are going to judge me for this.
I'm fully with you, bro. I am fully with you. I'm a big time hater. So we're all good.
It's just like, it's not real. But anyway, it's like, for me, it's not the kind of thing I want to go to. I still very much go to festivals to listen to and discover new music. And that's an important part. But creating a nice experience is a great great added bonus to me. But I feel like if you look at what the Holiday Club guys are doing, is they're booking new, young, fresh acts. It's not all just big acts, but people know it's going to be good. Like Tulani's a brilliant booker. He's one of the few guys. There's a handful of guys that still do stuff, and he's one of them. So yeah, you just you get negative about stuff like that, but in this, I suppose, but Indus Days, even for me, I'll be honest with you, Indus Days, brilliant festival. Really cool music. If you're not a die-hard Psych fan, are you going to go back every year? I guess is for me, I liked a little bit more variety. But that being said, what a wonderful festival. What wonderful bands, And for some people, you just need something that looks after that specific culture.
Yeah. And I think that's also like what's happened is, live music is, well, no, I say live music, but I'm talking mostly band music, is also being on a bit of a decline in South Africa. And so you'll find like a lot more bigger festivals, or there's the bigger events that are happening these days are more in line with hip hop and dance music, basically.
Yeah, big time, And it's, going back to like, if you take the white English market, it has been, Will Lindy's the first new artist in 10 years that is actually a headliner. So, and no disrespect to any of the artists, they've all earned their spots, and they've been holding them for so long. It's impressive. But if you look, it's been Jeremy, Good Luck, Matthew,
Yep.
and now there's Will, and it's like, that's not healthy, surely.
No, and I think that's also because of the like agents and stuff, bookers and agents are, a lot of the people putting on the festivals are friends with the people who have all the same acts on their books, and they package them together. And I think that's why a lot of it's also become quite, what's the term? I'm trying to, like, all just the same,
No, but I suppose different festivals for different people, but yeah, I think you and I feel a lot about the same stuff about there. Is festivals for me has always been a big place to discover music, and I feel like it's a booker's job to also introduce you to new stuff. And I remember about Oppikoppi is I used to love it. So many people would come and they'd be like, "Oh, we came for fuck off, or we came to see the Narrow, and we left, and like BCUC, your brother moves on was ridiculous." So I remember the one year. Like some metalhead came to me and he was just like, "Dude, I saw OK Malum Cool Cat." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "I stumbled across the stage and I saw this guy," and I was like, "Okay, jeez, all right." Like it doesn't even have to be different genres. It's nice when it's different genres, but festivals. Anyway, to answer your question, I'd love to put a fucking killer lineup together again.
Well, yeah. We'll see how that goes. But let's actually take it all the way back to how did you get into playing music? Because I know you were in Southern Gypsy Queens and you've been in quite a few different bands. So how did that journey start for you?
Bro, so I grew up in the Eastern Cape. I grew up between Maltino and East London. So, like, if you ever moan about Durban.
Like, I was going to say, like, shit, there's nothing there.
It's like Durban light. Yeah. It's like very light. So it was like I used to go surfing. My brother used to play tennis for Border, and I used to go surfing every weekend when he was playing tennis. And then in the weeks we were back in Maltino, and we started playing. My dad was big time into rock and roll and records, and he could play a little bit, etc. So we got into playing, and I had a year off after school. He was a year below me, and I was messing around, surfing, making music, etc. And the old promoter, Dagga Dirk Ace, I don't know if you remember Dagga Dirk Ace. He did like the Full Afraid tours and Kaka and the Cactus stuff back in the day. And he was like, hey, he was involved with Oppikoppi right in the beginning, booking the artists and stuff like that. And he sort of booked us he had this event, Rock Art or whatever, and he booked us and we played. And Pete Porter saw us, and Pete Porter got us our first record deal with Wilma. And from that, we played our first Oppikoppi. And then suddenly, like 4 or 5 years later.
But wait, that feels like you're missing out some tips there. What do you mean? You just like got a random booking?
It it all took a bit of time, but it is like a bunch of different things happened. That is the first show that sort of, like cascaded into another little thing happening, into another thing happening. And suddenly it is like 4 or 5 years later. And I still remember my brother and I looking at each other and looking at him going, fuck, are we professional musicians? Like we'd never had the time to actually go, we want to be professional musicians, or it sort of kind of happened like that. So it was never, I'd never thought about it. I think if I really sat down and thought about it, I would have actually back then never stopped playing music, but I would have moved into the industry side of stuff way earlier and still played in a band. Yeah, it all happened so oddly. Even now when I think back, it's like, wow.
I mean, I think especially at that time, if you had planned to try and make it as a band, you would have probably quit, like just because of looking at the landscape at that time. I can't imagine it would have been a lot of stuff in front of you that said like, "This is a real career."
No, no way. I think the fact that we didn't think about it maybe was our saving grace, because you always hear about how disappointed other musicians always are the whole time, is because I think we just didn't really have massive ambitions for it. So we were never let down. And then we did start taking it a little more seriously and stuff, obviously. But it was, I kind of stumbled into it, And even from there is I stumbled into the industry side because we had a terrible booking agent at one point. And I was like, I can't deal with this. Fuck, this guy's the worst. I know all of these promoters. I know all of these club owners. And I was like, I went to Southern Pulse, which was our management company. Leon Retief, I don't know if you remember Leon. He used to be the drummer for Boo back in the day.
Okay, I know who he is, but I never met him.
Yeah, and he owned the company. And I went to him. I was like, listen, we're not leaving Southern Pulse. Don't stress. But I want to book us through you. And he was like, what are you talking about? So I was like, I'm going to be our booking agent, and you can still get your commission, and I'll get whatever commission this other guy was getting. And he was like, well, you can give it a bash, but obviously not that keen. I'd never owned a laptop or anything, So I figured it out, and it is really not that hard. I'm not going to lie to you. I was lucky I had the relationships from playing the shows. So I wasn't coming in cold, but it was a great like a learning curve in life, and suddenly like Southern Gypsy Queen was doing way better than we'd ever done, and we were being booked more, and then Shadow Club came along, and Leon was like, I was like, I've been talking to Isaac, and he's really keen for me to get involved. Do you mind if I take on a second band? And he was like, yeah, totally. So it's like, oh, come on, Shadow Club. And then it was Tidal Waves and BCUC and even Black Hat Bones. Funny enough, it's like full circle. Back then I was looking after Black Hat Bones. And then only when I got the job with Oppikoppi did I thought about it. No one told me to. The company never told me to. I was just like, this seems kind of weird if I'm going to be booking all these festivals and I'm a booking agent for bands. I feel like either I'm going to be judged every time I book a band that I'm their agent, or I'm just not going to book them, and that's also not fair.
Yeah.
So eventually I sort of let that side go. But that is my first step from musician into the industry. And then it became the booking stuff, obviously with Hilltop. And then from there, the clubs got added to it, like Good Luck Bar. And yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, let's chat about Good Luck Bar, because that was a pretty iconic space for a moment in time. How'd you guys come up with that?
It is always a dream, and it's still something I want to do again, is have a live music venue. I was way better at that than Romeo's is an amazing spot, but I always say, Romeo's, there's 4 partners, myself, Gert, Madre, and Stefan. Madre and Gert are they're the guys that dreamed up what Romeo's is, And it was a spot that is built on a party, built on a vibe. The music played a part, but it wasn't the reason people came. I was always better at like music being the reason that the people are gathering in a place, and that is sort of my strength. And Good Luck Bar was that. And Nickel, who was my partner, we were looking for something to do. We were actually going to open up a small little place with Louis and Isaac from Shadow Club called Bone Town. And and they ended up doing Bone Town Records later, which was actually pretty cool. So it lasted a little while, but it was good. And we met this guy who had the space in town, and we said to them, let's do it, yeah. And it was different to what they wanted to do, but Nicola and I were like, we're willing to adjust. We want to do this thing. And we opened up there, and we were like, we're just going to start a live music venue, and we want to do it. We want to create a space where we can just book really good acts that we think are great. And that's how it started. And then obviously as it got bigger, then we started getting other promoters were coming in, and there was events that were, every now and then there'd be an event that we'd be like, oh my God, did we really just take the money for this one? Which we did, we'll admit. It's tough running a club. So there was like some stuff that we were very, very like, we wouldn't even promote from our socials. We were like, oh my God, but we needed this place to run.
It's a private event.
Yeah.
Hey man, sometimes you're just a wedding venue, like
we did weddings, dude.
You know what I mean? Oh, did you?
Yeah, I organized my ex-wife's wedding at my venue.
Wait, what?
Yeah, my ex-wife got married to a new husband at our wedding. It was a great wedding. Like we get on really well. So it's like, but whenever we always have a laugh about it when we were like, oh my God, like loads of weddings.
I thought Durban was small, bro.
Yeah. And look, and it is wild, man. That is probably the wildest stage of my life. I've calmed down so much. Nowadays.
Owning a venue means a lot of late nights, a lot of alcohol, a lot of
look, there was nothing.
Tequila shot.
We had a house. We rented a house. We rented an apartment like 100 meters away from the venue. It is like the sort of top story, what would be the penthouse, bit of a very old building. We were the only non-Asian people in the building because that's the original Chinatown. And it was nicknamed the Bang House because so many people had sex there. Ironically, not really Nicola and I. Everybody else had sex in our house. We were always working. And and so we were just like taking turns. One goes and sleep, one comes down, and it is like, and we were doing like stuff in the day and video shoots. And it is 5 years that I will never forget. It was like incredibly stressful, but incredibly fun. And we really felt like if there was a time I felt like we were doing something really good for the music scene, I think we were doing something good there. There's a lot of people will like claim they were the most iconic club and this and that, and I don't claim that by any long shot. But I know that at that time, we were there in Joburg. We were the place that was open to do anything. If it looked good, if it sounded good, we were up for it, And I couldn't have done it much longer than we did. It was a bit of an ugly fallout. We had a really dodgy partner.
Well, yeah, because I was going to ask about, like, how do you go in, like, how do you start a venue? Like, with the finances and stuff like that. Obviously, as you said, like, you had partners and stuff like that. But, like, yeah, how do you go into it and go, cool, I'm going to get, like, hundreds of thousands of rands and throw it into this thing?
Yeah, so that one, there was a lot of begging, borrowing, and stealing to start that one. I won't lie. We had a little bit of money that we'd sort of saved up, and we loaned a little bit of money, and we got one or two other silent partners we brought in. Jean-Michel.
Oh, yes. Yes.
He was involved. Teresho, who's the CEO of Hilltop Live, he was involved. And then we had this like one dodgy partner who owned like 50%, and then the rest of us owned the other bit, and Nicola and I ran it. And it was a group of us, and then Middle Finger, I don't know if you know Middle Finger, the Afrikaans rapper and drummer, like he's the drummer of Dead Lucky. He was eventually involved because we had another place called the Shadow Boxer as well, little restaurant, which wasn't really, it was a bit of a flop, I won't lie. So there was this whole like little thing going. And so between us all, we managed to hustle up enough money to get this going. And the sad part was Good Luck Bar made a lot of money. But the Shadow Boxer, which was our other partner's dream, which we got roped into and didn't really want to. So Good Luck Bar was bailing that out. And he had other businesses that were going wonky, and he was bailing them out with our money. And then at some point, he would always give the money back, but then eventually the businesses weren't doing so well, and they couldn't give the money back on time. And we were always so wasted back then. It was that era. I think he just thought we weren't going to notice. And one day we were like, but wait. Why do we owe people money? We've been full every single weekend for however long, and it's been pumping. And then suddenly we started asking questions. Then it got ugly, and then it became a legal thing. And at one point, actually, we just couldn't do it anymore. And Nicola and I just said, yeah, look, we're still owners of this place, but we can't run it the way it's going now. We need to sort this out. And we stood down as running it, and he sort of took over, and then he sunk it almost instantly. So it was a bit of a sad ending, but I don't think it could have gone much longer for me. I think I wouldn't be sitting here today if that one ran any longer.
Yeah, I mean, and in general, like, I mean, it's sad that it went that way, but venues do have a lifespan, you know?
They do. And I'm okay with that, you know. I loved what it did I loved that part of my life. I don't necessarily want to do it again, but but it was a great part of my life. And I think it's like every little thing brings you to the next one, you know. I'm always interested to see what's next.
Yeah, that's the thing. It sounds like your whole life has just been like this organic thing that just everything just kind of fell into your lap in some ways.
Yeah, no, look, I got really lucky. Look, I work hard. Like, I'm not going to lie. I work really hard.
I know, like, yeah, maybe the wrong phrase to use.
I know what you're saying, but yeah, I was very much a right place, right time kind of guy, you know. But it was because I was at every place all the time. I was, you know, like if you're going to be at enough places, you're going to be at the right place eventually.
Yeah, because that's what you made, like, a lot of contacts along the way. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it all just steadily built. Like, obviously, like you said, like, you started the band, and then from doing that, you started booking, and from that, you know, you got into other bands who you're booking for, then it's Oppikoppi, all of that. Like, it all just makes sense, like, when you look back at it. But, like, you could never actually predict, like, the career path, I guess. Like, you can't, like, study for something like this.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's so weird. And now it's like gone full circle, is because like now playing at the Black Hat Bones, you know, taking over the spot of one of my best friends who obviously passed away. And it's like suddenly playing in a band again with these like three of my best mates and playing music again has made me love all the other elements of the industry again. Because you know what it's like. You can get a little bit down in the music industry and in the entertainment industry in general, and sometimes you just need something to spark you, you know. And it sounds the other day I was sitting thinking, going like, I've literally gone full circle. I thought that chapter was long closed. So yeah, been a wild ride, bro, but it's been lekker. I can't complain.
I think like you've gone back to like with the Black Hat Bones making music with your friends. It does remind me of like a Steve Albini thing of saying like, you know, like with music and that, if you're trying to make it your job, like often you can compromise and stuff, and it's like it's almost better to have a day job and just be making something, you know, for the pure love of it without having to worry about, you know, making money from it, because then you actually get to just be an artist.
Yeah, I really do. There's nothing that we do in that band that we don't want to do. We're conscious of things, but there's no, like, you know, even with Southern Gypsy Queen, I enjoyed it, but there was times I fucking hated it. And there was times like we were pressured and had to do things we didn't specifically want to do. And there was long times it felt like work. And my goal is no matter where the Black Hat Bones go or what happens there is I just don't ever want it to feel like work. And like every rehearsal still I'm pumped for. And we play a lot of shows, bro. I didn't know what I was signing up for. They were like, we're going to slow down, dude. We're going to not, you know, we just want to keep the thing going. And I was like, sweet, we're playing every weekend. But it's great. Like it's given me a new zest for life. Like, you know, and I almost chickened out, hey, Bob. I haven't actually told anybody this before. I haven't even told the band this. Is the night before the first rehearsal. Andre also just announced that I'd be singing with him. He once raised it with me, and then that is the last we spoke about it. And he knew I wasn't going to commit, and then he did it. And I spoke to my girlfriend the night before, and I said, I can't do this. I'm pulling out. Those days are over for me. And it's massive. Like, Ruth was amazing front man. And she just said, "Give it a go, man. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it again." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go in with that attitude." And I went in with the attitude of like, I am not rot. I am, but I'm gonna love singing his songs. I'm gonna sing them the way I would sing them, with the most respect I have for what he does. Yeah, so it's crazy, and it's like I can see the improvement in my other work from playing again. It's like, yeah. So any musicians that are in the industry that thought that they're done playing, yeah, I don't think you are. It's always good to come back.
Yeah, you do see that happen. Like people take breaks for, up to 10 years sometimes, and then eventually decide to get back with, either their old band or start up a new project. And like, yeah, without all the stress of their previous project, which, like a lot of people in their 20s, do the touring thing. And then like, it becomes a lot, and you got to have like this big plan for you, everything. And then once they don't have to do that anymore, they can just create more freely.
Yeah. No, it's been a good ride though. I also do a lot of stuff I don't want to do in my life. I'm a grown up. I know it's not all fun and games. But mostly I work on stuff I really enjoy. And that's my goal now, is like try work on as much stuff as I enjoy. Even releases, etc. I try and I work on the artists that I really enjoy, the ones that I understand, the ones that I feel I can sell to other people because I get it. And I always say, when I go to a lot of these music conferences and talk about distribution, and I never try and sell Virgin at a conference, I'll try and sell what artists should be looking for when they're looking for deals, and they should be looking for the best deal. And for me, it's always just like, what you actually really need to find, apart from all that, different labels and different guys have different services and different, some guys you can make more money with, and this guy's got stronger at this, and that one's better at that, is I'm always like, find the guy that cares the most about your career and release music with that person. And I think it's all come down to that. It's like, I want to work with you and I care about your career, and I like working on your stuff, and I'm going to do it better because I enjoy it. So I find, like, for me, it's just better steering myself towards things that I do enjoy because I do it way better.
Fair enough. And then one of the things I wanted to ask is like, what is modern A&R like? Like how do you find artists and stuff? Like I can't imagine you're on TikTok much, but I imagine that is also probably where like some stuff's being discovered. But yeah, because I know back in the day it used to be, at live events, basically. That's where A&R would find new artists and that. So what's it like these days?
Glory days, bro. I wish it was like that. That's the best. That's old romantic story of walking into some sleazy bar and seeing a band and going,
Discovering Nirvana. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what does. Yeah, it's not so much like that anymore. Look, there's still that sort of thing still happens, very rarely. It's TikTok is obviously a big one. So I'm across the board. So I still go to a lot of shows. I look for people, but these days with social media, it's hard to find people at shows that you've never heard of because they'll pop up on your radar somewhere else long before you see them at a show.
Sure.
So it is TikTok. It is, I sit on chart metrics and stuff like that, and I look for spikes. It's not all. Some of it. That's the more boring side of the things.
So it's more data analysis these days.
There's a lot of it is data. A lot of it is data. Is one of the big managers once told me. He was like, because when I first started, I was like, "Yes, man, there's so much good music that comes my way, but some of it, even though the music's good, that how are you going to take it further with that artist?" And he just said to me, "Gareth, the same way I've always seen it is I say to them, if I look at them, if I can see they can take themselves 10% of the way, then I can try and take them the other 90%. But if they can't get from 0 to 10%, there's probably not enough there to push. You can't." And I've sort of used that as a sort of a guide. So even when it's completely new artists with nothing, sometimes long before I'll even sign an artist or move forward, is I'll be like, focus on these things, start doing these things, see if you can do these things. Let's chat in a little bit again, and see where they're going, because it's very much artists are driving themselves. We're still very much involved with like which songs, listening sessions and going through the songs and this and that. But it has become, artists are a lot more in control of what they are doing. At least in our industry, I know that there's a big manufactured scene out there as well. If you look at the Afrikaans market, it's also very much like what you see in the movies of millions of songwriters getting together and people telling you how to dress and how to do this and that. That scene exists the world over, and yeah. But I think the way I choose to do it and the artists I choose to work with is to find an artist that they kind of know who they are and where they're going, and we just try and help them become the best version of that. And discovering them, it comes via many different ways. I've got lots of guys, young guys that are out on the streets. I also am 43, dude, so I don't want to be on the streets all the time. So I've got a lot of guys that I really trust that are out there, and they'll come back to me with a whole bunch of options, and they'll say, like, they'll sort of weed through a lot of stuff, and they'll go like, these are the ones. I think this one will appeal to you. I think that one will appeal to you. And then I go and make the mission to see a lot of it. And God bless those kids at that age, because I was also one of those guys that did not miss, as you were one of them for sure, did not miss a single thing in fear that I was going to miss out on something that was happening,
Oh yeah, no, like when I was younger, I prided myself on finding new bands and everything, just to write about, and like, I'm stoked.
I discovered so much music from your guys' side,
So that makes me feel good, because like I'm stoked about that work that we did. I feel like it's missing in modern South African media. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good music journalism happening. But there's not a lot of money in it anymore. So,
no.
Yeah, well, we're going to head on out. So I've got one more question to ask you. It's a question I ask all the guests, and that is, what is a big mistake you have learned an important lesson from?
I'm not so good at learning lessons, apparently.
But you're going to make mistakes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've made more mistakes than I care to remember. Is, you know what? So many times I think I've tried to do, from being a musician to being a booker to being a club owner to being an A&R. It's a mistake that I regularly make, and I have to like stop myself and just remind myself, is that sometimes you get stuck in the scene and you get shown like this is the way we do it, and this is how it's supposed to be done, and then that never works out for me. Is like it is finding the ways, using everything as a guide, but finding my way of doing things has always been the way that's worked best. And sometimes, get a little bit too big for your boots. And I'd say what I regret is there's been times in my life where maybe you get a little bit of an ego and you're like, oh, fuck. Yes, now I'm on it. Not even like an ego, like I'm the man or whatever. Just where in your own head you sort of believe like, oh shit, okay, no, now I'm on the money. Like, and then suddenly you realize, and that is the moment you lose it, and then you got to go back down. And I think it's the staying hungry the whole time for me is just reminding myself that I can be replaced tomorrow. There's a million people that can replace me, and I've made that mistake once or twice, and I always try and hope that I don't make it again, is that just getting content. I've got content so many times, and then I've just got to wake myself up again and go, I don't know. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah. I mean, it's your answer, but yeah, it does. And bro, I fully get you there, man. Like pride comes before a fall, bro. And every time I've been feeling myself, there's a banana peel right in front of me and I don't see it.
Yeah. No, and we're normally our own worst enemies when it comes to that stuff,
Okay, sweet, bro. Well, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. It's been great to see where you're at these days and also reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, this has been really fun. Thanks for having me.